What's up, everybody? Hello, world. This is the Gens, our authentic selves. And look, again, I've got my wonderful panel here. Johans the great, Marcia the amazing, and Kelly, she can do anything. We are going to be we got a hot one today. This one I think really resonates with where a lot of people are at some point or another in their life. Me personally, I experience it just about every jump that I do. And I think a lot of other people do too. And so I think that's why it's going to be such a great conversation today. We're talking about imposter syndrome. Ooh, I think we're going to dive deep. What about y'all?
I
Probably.
agree.
It's real. It's real.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. And so I'm gonna go ahead and shut up, but I'm gonna go ahead and just throw it out there to the room. Let's first start off with, how do you look at imposter syndrome? What is it to you, and how do you experience it? Right.
That's a very good question. Kelly, did you want to speak or did I didn't want to take nobody's spot, you know what
No,
I'm saying?
go ahead and I'll go next.
So, what's funny is, well, I ain't gonna say what's funny, but like when I heard the term the first time, because I guess a lot of terms are being coined lately that I never heard before. And so just trying to figure out one, what imposter syndrome is. And it's like, you know, just talking with various people, just throughout. Literally, I feel like this topic has been coming up for me in like conversations past few months. And so basically, how I understand it is that you are in situations where you feel like you're not really there, meaning that you're not like adequate enough, like meaning that you don't feel like you deserve to be there. It's almost like, what's the word I want to use? Almost like you feel like you don't deserve it almost, even though it's like you've accomplished something, but it's like maybe you feel like you got it by dumb luck, or everybody else is better than me and I'm somehow I just got here. So I feel like it's real though. Like I just feel like at some point or another, just like you said, CJ, I feel like excuse me, I feel like yeah, we've all felt that way to some degree, and maybe it could have been just by the situation or just the environment. We just might not feel that we're quote unquote adequate enough to be in this particular field, you know, and it's tough because because somebody we was talking about it and it was like, yo, was that like a mental illness? So I was like, I don't know. Is it just the mind, quote unquote, playing a trick on me?
Mm.
So I'm just like, I know I've been there. I'm not even going front. I've been there, where it's just like you get to a certain place and you're in these meetings, you got your suit on, everybody's all suited and booted, and you're looking around like, yo, people keep, they're talking about their stats. I've been here for 15 years. I've been here for 20 years, X amount of experience. And you're like, I just started doing this. So it's like, it's almost like you just feel a little bit less than where you're at, and yeah, that's kind of how I see it. How's everybody else feel about it?
Honestly, I'm gonna agree with you. As far as feeling like, you're not in the right place or feeling like you're not qualified enough to be in the space that you're in. Um, it's like a lack of confidence, a lack of self-awareness. And then some people, like I know how you said that some people think it's a mental illness. Honestly, some people do have to go to therapy and go to like, types of talk therapy or group therapy to get past it because it's like how first of all, it's like why do I feel like this? Why do I feel like I'm not, you know, able to be in this place, or why do I feel like I'm not qualified to be in this place? But then people go to therapy so they can address that. Why don't I feel confident enough? How can I, accept compliments or, just know that I am qualified to be here. So it can be a lot of things. It can be like not accepting, compliments while you're in that place, or not feeling like you're living up to maybe the expectations of people around, or like the expectations that people have set for you. And so it is kind of tough. And we had this conversation a few days ago. I'm kind of feeling that in the space that I'm in. But I have had, you know, conversations with y'all, conversations with friends, and I'm like, well, like they chose me to be here for a reason. And so just kind of replaying that in the back of my mind to be like, oh yeah, I am here for a reason. I am qualified enough to be here, and just kind of like running with that, you know, moving forward.
I had to look it up because people
I have
keep
it pulled up.
I had to look it up because when I mentioned it earlier, I keep hearing the phrase, but not really understanding what it means. And like, you know how you can be in a conversation and pick up context clues, and I would really be like, I don't get it. So I'm just gonna, for the folks who are watching who may be like me and don't know exactly this article I have is from verywellmind.com as a resource. And it says there can be 5 imposter syndrome types, like the perfectionist. Um, so unless you're perfect, you feel like you could have done better. The expert feels like an imposter because they don't know everything there is to know about a particular subject. The natural genius, in this type, you may feel like a fraud simply because you don't believe that you are naturally intelligent or competent. The soloist, it's also possible to feel like an imposter if you had to ask for help to reach a certain level or status. And the super person, this type of imposter syndrome involves believing that you must be the hardest worker or reach the highest levels of achievement possible. With that being said, it seems like everybody could have some sort of imposter syndrome at some point in time. I can tell you, for me, now that I'm like bringing it up, um, I think probably the perfectionist might be like that imposter syndrome for me, but I think it manifests itself in a different way. Um, like the perfectionist can be the person who will keep doing something and never execute it because it's not perfect,
Hmm.
right? I'm gonna throw it into CJ shirt, right? So so if I feel like I you know and I don't know if that's imposter syndrome per se, but I know that I have a perfectionism problem where I will proofread and proofread and proofread and proofread and maybe wait till 11:20 at night before I send an application in that I have. So maybe that is how it manifests in my life.
Can I just jump in real quick? As of, if you don't mind, real quick, CJ, like as I'm sitting here, I honestly don't like the term imposter because imposter just has negative connotation, if you ask me. And so as I'm sitting here, I'm like, yo, are we getting a little too out of hand with all of these labels of everything? Like, why does it have to be everything? Because just like what you said, now there's different degrees of being a perfectionist. I get it. But if you care about your work, you care about what your name is on, you're gonna like check it twice. You're gonna check it maybe a million times. You're gonna go through that process of wanting to make sure it's right. Now, I just feel like you should want to do that. I don't know. I'm just it's a disconnect with the name. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's just the semantics of it all, but it's just a disconnect for me. But I'm gonna let you go ahead, CJ. I'm just it just that's with my head, man.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it's all about. I mean, my thing is what's your opinion? You know what I mean? Like once you read the definition of it, right? Now you have the facts, and then now you can put what that meaning is to you, right? Like how do you look at it? How do you see it, right? Because even though we do have truths, and we have facts and laws, we still interpret them differently, right? You can't argue with that. We do interpret them differently. We all have a different past from each other, so we all see things from a different lens, and that's okay. As a matter of fact, that's great, because now you can show me a different angle of this thing that I may not have been looking at. And for me, imposter syndrome, oh man, I I will venture out to say, and for me in my life, I will say if you don't experience it, you aren't doing anything, right? you aren't leveling up. You aren't going to a place where you weren't before, right? So in the Bible, right? In the beginning was the word, right? The world didn't exist. Man and woman didn't exist. What was spoken is what created it, right? So I think it's like you got to get to a point where we accept our divineness, right? Our image and likeness. And yeah, it's our brain is still on survival mode, right? To me. It's still on survival mode. So when you put these things out there, it's like, I don't know if that's the truth. But the thing is what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? So for me, the imposter syndrome, man, I who the heck was I to go to the Marine Corps, right? I graduated high school with a 1.3 GPA and didn't think I was going to amount to anything in life, right? Didn't have this figure, that figure, but here was I graduated at the top of my class in the Marine Corps, right? Who was I to go from, you know, living in Southeast DC to, moving out to the suburbs somewhere and being horrible. And then, I think I'm gonna, elevate past a security job, right? And here I am working with Harvard MBAs in some of the largest financial institutions, right? Investing in real estate. If every level I'm sitting up there, the first couple times I'm sitting up there like, ooh, who am I? Right? This hasn't been me. So I do feel like an imposter in it. But that's the thing. It's like, are you gonna you gonna you you gonna sit there, you're gonna get off the pot, right? You know what I really want to say, right? So it's like, are you gonna go through it? That's the thing. I think imposter syndrome for me is a notification to keep going, right? Because one day you will not be that imposter, right? So I think, and it just, to me, it's like you're in a place where you've never been before, so you're growing, right? I think it's a choice. So yeah, to me, that's the way that I kind of recognize it in my life. But how, I mean, we kind of talked about how it has manifested in you all's life, but that's the thing, is like, do you stay there? Do you quit because you felt like an imposter, or what? How do you handle it? How do you deal with it?
You got to face it. You got to rise to the challenge, right? Like you can't ever sit in your current, right? You can't ever just sit there and be like, okay, I'm just gonna accept this. This is life. I'm good. I'm average. Like, who wants to accept that? You know what I'm saying? So I like what you said, that because of where you come from, you didn't just stay there. You kind of rose, you kept going higher. And so that kind of had me thinking. I was like, do our environments mess with our mentality to feel as if we can't have more, or that we should just be happy with just where we're at? You know what I'm saying? And so it's weird, because it's like, we come from these different backgrounds, but the will to say I want more tells me I'm not an imposter. It tells me that I want to be better than where I'm at. So for me, I have to reject the whole imposter. I gotta just reject that whole title. I can't mess with it. I'm sorry, but because I just feel like you are what you tell yourself repeatedly, right? So if I'm telling myself I'm an imposter, then I'm going to naturally start thinking that, and I don't want to think that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I want to continue rising. It's just like, like you just said, you got to level up, and you got to just face it. Like, okay, I don't want to be here. I would venture to say that all four of us right now and the rest of our crew want to be so much better next year, this same date next year, than where we're currently at. And we're gonna be there. Like, that's the belief level. We're not just gonna be staying the same. No, we're gonna level up. We're gonna get better, because we want to get better. We want to actually do better. We just don't want to stay the same or be average. That's kind of how I feel about it.
I agree with Johannes. I reject it too. And I'll tell you the reason why. to piggyback on what both of you guys said, but while CJ was talking, I was thinking about nature versus nurture. And CJ said, "Who am I?" And I was like, "Is that CJ talking? Is that CJ's little voice? Or is that maybe someone else's little voice?" Y'all know what I'm saying? Right? Like, maybe someone said, a school teacher, guidance counselors are notorious for not guiding nobody. And they'll say, well, you can't go to this college or you don't qualify for this or whatever. So I'm wondering, like, like you said, Johannes, for all of us who, are in our group, we all have specifically, methodically, intentionally put ourselves in places so that we can be better people, do more things, affect more change. And I don't think that a person who effectively, purposely puts themselves in that space can also feel like an imposter. Like, unless you lied to get there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I said I wanted to do X. I'm gonna do X. Now I may have moments where it'd be like, oh child, why did you put yourself in this position? Because it's hard, but that's human. Like, it's a learning curve for whatever I'm doing. So I reject the imposter part. I feel like sometimes they just be making up stuff. Like when we was growing up, wasn't nobody allergic to gluten. I still don't know what gluten is. And I feel like I feel like
Oh my goodness.
I feel like some of these phrases that they making up, they just making up. Like I know some people feel like they suffer from it, so I don't mean to make light of it, but I reject that that everybody experiences it. I feel like maybe some people do. Like that's how the phrase came about. But I told y'all a couple of weeks ago, like when I walk in a room or when I do something, I expect to be told yes. So I don't have any imposter syndrome in that because I expect for y'all to say, yes, you got the job. Yes, this is your house. Yes, is so you know what I mean?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So you brought up environment, right? Johan, so you brought that up. And that one right there is you said, does our environment, I can't remember the way you phrased it, but basically have the impression on us, right?
Mhm.
And my answer is absolutely and unequivocally yes.
Unequivocally, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Right. And the thing is when you go into a new environment, hey, um, I don't know what this environment looks like. I don't know what this thing, I have preconceived notions of it, right? But at the same time, do I belong day one? Right. And so look, I'll tell you, no, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that it's just that easy for me where I'll just click and say, oh yeah, I was supposed to be here, whatever. No, but let me be there the third time. Now things start to, because repetition is the father of learning, right? And an environment does not necessarily define things for us, but it reinforces for us, right?
Hmm.
And so that is why it's very important that I think, once you make this decision, once you speak the word, once you write the word, now you must uh obviously, go that way, but then also around you put reinforce it, right? Like if you've ever created a vision board, that's what that is. It's a reinforcement of you going after your goals, right? Like, and I would venture to say, if you're not uncomfortable with the stuff that's on your vision board, then you ain't shooting high enough, right? You're not. So, that's the thing. And so I agree. I look. I always look at everybody's perspective and I take it, right? But remember, I come from the school, some hard knocks where it's like, all right, cool. I accept that. And you know what? I'm gonna fight that. So I'm definitely right there with you. And I kind of look at how do I change my environment. Like around my room right here, I have a bunch of, I have like one, two. The mission was to create put 100 sticky notes up around this room in here that says toot, right? To toot your own horn, right? Because we don't typically brag on ourselves and do that, right? But look, every in my peripheral, that word toot is right there, right? That's not something that I do. I am an imposter to that thing until right until so that's kind of where I really kind of sit with it and acknowledge certain things, kind of like, you know, if you if I gain like 20 pounds and it's like, all right, yeah, it's probably time to eat a salad, right? I'm an imposter in this new body. Like I don't belong here. Let me change some things. So so talking about that, like if you however you want to define it, however you see it, right? Marcia, what's that click? What's that trigger? So you want to go to your business is a, you know, let's call it a $500,000 business right now. I'm not that's I'm for IRS purposes and everybody else's purposes and privacy. I'm just throwing a number out there, right? But I'm saying if you go from a $500,000 business to a $10 million business tomorrow, what does that change look like for you? What does it
Oh
look like?
man. Oh man. Um, it looks amazing. And I can tell you that I have a vision for my business.
No.
Um,
Hold on. What's the mindset shift?
oh, the mindset
That because
shift.
is the mind, it is whatever syndrome that you got that's keeping you at a $500,000. We're not
Right.
growing to 1 million. We're not growing to 5. We going to 10 million tomorrow. What's the shift? What is it? What's the change?
Ooh-wee. What is the shift in my mind to get to that tomorrow? It's gotta it's gotta be belief.
Mm.
It's
And
gotta be,
confidence.
yeah, confidence. It's gotta be the the change in my mindset has to be that I know it will be done. I know it's done. Like not will be, not going to be, like it is done. Like I think that's what it has to be, right? So the confidence to say what Kelly is, but I have to say the words that it is done. My business is $1 million business. It is done. So I have to switch all of switch the mindset, but then all of the activities have to follow that. You know, because I could just be walking around my house, it is done. But if I don't do it, so there's that.
Nice. Nice. So tomorrow you walk into a room with, you know, the richest people in the world. You feeling it.
Mm,
You on it. And it's the belief behind it that filled you up with, like it's like you talking to us, right?
mhm.
Same thing. Okay. Got it. Anybody else? What's the shift? What's the change? What is it? What does that look like for you? Does it take
I
time or is it immediate?
I personally I think it's gonna take time, right? I'm a recovering people pleaser. I'm trying every
Mm,
day to not feel like I have to,
I like that.
be I feel like somebody has to compliment me just to know that I'm doing good. And so it's like, well, I created a system that works. And it's proven that it works because my business went from $500,000 to $10 million, like you just said. So it's like just being confident that that system worked for you, being confident that you have the right people around you, and just like keep doing that.
That's real. That's real. I know for me, when Kelly, when you first said confidence, you know, that right there is huge because one, your belief comes from your confidence because you've been doing it over and over and over again. And so it's like the things we repeatedly do, we gain more confidence. We do it consistently. Now it's the discipline. So the mindset shift is be disciplined, right? We want to talk about being a perfectionist, but make sure that you do A through Z. If you got a checklist of A through F, master A through F. That's the consistency of doing it, which brings about the confidence, which brings about the I belong here. You can't tell me nothing. I'm a master of my domain. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the shift is discipline. The shift is sense of urgency. The shift is I'm going to be the first millionaire in my family. I've achieved it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like now we go for more. Now we go for I got to bring other people to this realm. You know what I'm saying? So the mindset shift is I believe that it comes singular, but then it's like you got to look out. Who am I serving? You know what I'm saying? So the mindset shifts from individual to I'm serving more and more people to get to what it is that I want, that I need to have so that I can do more. So the more I serve, the more I receive, which is wild. But it's the way that life works. So I feel like, again, it all boils down to what are you willing to do today? Are you willing to sacrifice to get more? Are you willing to be disciplined so that you can get more? That's how I see it. But
What are
confidence.
the feelings along the way?
Mm.
Because there's a point in time,
Kelly said, "Ooh."
and then there is a and then there is a not necessarily I've arrived, because we'll never get there. We never truly get there. But the way that we're talking about it, there is an I arrived, right? So what are the feelings in between those two distances before this thing becomes manifest, right? What are the feelings there? Um,
You ever see
Frustration.
that cartoon? I'm sorry. You
Oh,
ever
go
see
ahead. Go
that
ahead.
cartoon where the cartoon just hits themselves against the wall? That's the feeling, right? Because what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Like, I think that there are all I don't want to I think there are all those moments where you're like, I know that I know that this is where we're going. And I know why. That's a big thing, right? What's the why? But whew, everything we can only control ourselves and our activities. And so when the outside sources come in and act like they don't know what our goal is, then we're banging our head.
yeah.
I'm
Yo,
sorry,
yo,
Johannes, but that's
yes.
what
No.
came in
You're
my
good.
head.
You're good.
Johannes hit something that I mean, there is belief, right? And then belief will drive action, right? Or at least just a mustard seed, right? A mustard seed, size of faith, right? Can drive action. And that is what creates confidence. It is through constantly reaffirming. And I mean reaffirming through action, right? That's what builds confidence. And then from there, I think that's it. But my son he somehow he always sees me. He's like, Dad, why are you talking to yourself? Like, son, I do it all the time. Like, I'm coming out of I'm about to go into something that where I gotta go grow. I'm coming out of it, because I had to feel the growth, and I'm like, you did that. You did that, and he always sees me. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, because I'm changing the internal speak, right? I'm changing the internal talk. Because if you don't direct this thing up here, it will go all different types of places or whatever. So that was why I was kind of asking. But go ahead to the other two. What are the feelings in between? What do you feel like?
I feel like there's some frustration. I mean, you're frustrated. Yes, you're doing it all day, every day, but you're frustrated with I'm doing this. I'm consistent. I'm disciplined, but maybe the result is not there. So being in full transparency, there's some frustration that lies with that because now you're like, do I need to change course? Do I need to change what I'm doing? So now inadvertently you created a little bit of doubt. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like you got to have really good accountability partners to say, you know what, Johans, you're doing the right thing. You're on the right path. You know what I'm saying? So I would say a feeling of openness, a feeling of not leaning to your own understanding. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a feeling. It's more like you shouldn't be so much, you shouldn't feel or believe so much in your way of doing things, but lean not to your own understanding. And at the end of the day, it's so many different emotions. Like I'm thinking like, yo, I'm a millionaire now. My business is you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's so many emotions, but that gap that you're talking about is joyous because you're traveling on a path.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? It's frustrating, but then it's just like I'm betting on myself. You know what I'm saying? There's a little bit of doubt. Am I doing the right thing? You know what I'm saying? I know I'm throwing out phrases that are not necessarily feelings, but those are the thoughts, if you will, which drive those feelings. You know what I'm saying? Like, am I doing the right thing? You know, we talk about, you know, changing careers. You know, all of us here in some way, shape, or form made a pivot, made a shift. So it's like you gotta step out on some kind of faith. You know what I'm saying? And it may be new. And I was looking at something earlier, and one of the ladies was like, if it doesn't scare you, you shouldn't be doing it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, your dream should be so scary. Sometimes it should make you cry. And maybe that's not a big enough dream for you. You know what I'm saying? So just like how I'm talking right now, it's a little bit of it's energy. You know what I'm saying? It's just a big ball of energy that you're trying to like properly massage and shift in a certain direction so that you get a desired result.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like that.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Yeah, so I've taken a few clients through the process, the grow process. And what grow stands for is the G is what are our goals, right? So set some smart goals. The
Mhm.
R is define what reality is, right? Define what reality is. The O is for options. What options do we have at our disposal, right? So that could be, you know, a different way of doing things or bringing in a different tool. And then W stands for what's the way forward, where we're going to pick one or two of those options, and that's the way that we're going. Regardless, that's the process. That's if you want to attain something, you get to a point where Johan's like what you said. It's like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Well, look, we did all of the right stuff up front, and we have to trust what we did and the feelings along the way. We gotta talk to ourselves. We gotta go do some push-ups. We gotta, eat or believe, do whatever. I don't know what it is, but to stick to that path, at least for a certain amount of time that we define up front. So that is one thing, and that's having that certainty that you've in yourself, right? Because we've overcome 100% of our problems, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, right? So it's like, we have overcome so much, and so we have to be certain that we'll continue to solve those problems along the way. Um, what is your what is your level of what is your level of certainty in life in general? What is it? What is it? What keeps you out of this riffraff and all this kind of imposter this and all of the different names and all that kind of stuff. What is your level of certainty in life? And how do you help other people, raise theirs?
I want to say mine is like a strong 8. The reason I say that is because like I know for a fact that I don't want to be in the same spot. I know for a fact that I don't want to feel like I have to maybe rely on people or feel like I have to, rely on that like those compliments from people or rely on a lot of other things, but like I don't want to be here. I want to be successful and I want to grow a bunch of successful businesses. But then it's also like, how am I going to get there? I have no idea. So I have so many ideas. Like I want to grow so many businesses. So it's like I'm not 100% certain how I'm going to get there, but I do know that I am going to be there.
Mhm.
And I am like, I'm okay with the fact that it's going to take some trial and error. It's going to take, maybe this doesn't work, or it's going to take a million no's from somebody who you want to support you. But I do know, so I'm not going to be in the same spot forever.
How do you help someone else get to your level of certainty or above?
I think just kind of like listening and speaking life into people. I kind of try to talk to people the same way that I try to encourage myself. And then just kind of, working through it, maybe directing them to maybe somebody that can help. If I can't help it, I don't like to tell people I don't know. So it's like, if I don't know right now, I will figure it out together. Like I want to help other people.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
That's what's good.
Anybody else?
I'm just.
I,
Are you laughing at me, yo?
It's like,
Because
yo, because
I'm like
looking at
making
you,
these faces, like these thinking faces that usually can't nobody see but me.
I see the wheels turning. That's why. So I'm like, yo, what was he saying?
I think I've been fortunate in that I'm a talker. You know what I mean? I accept that as fortunate, and so I have the tendency to be able to people come to me with their problems, and I didn't understand why. Like, I guess I have this look on my face where people, or energy maybe, or kind of both, where people would come to me their problems with, whether it's people who are close to me or people that I work with or so forth. And so I feel like in that opportunity that people give me, it gives me a chance to, like Kelly said, speak to them in the same manner that I would speak to myself. And that is an ongoing process. I would just like to say that it's not something that we come into this planet with necessarily. Like, I am beautiful, I am smart, I am amazing, you are wonderful, you are gifted, you are, like, it's not necessarily something that we come into this space with, and it doesn't always get cultivated around us. So it's an opportunity I have to say, uh, when someone is feeling down or feeling uh, frustrated or struggling with a certain situation, I have been able to connect with them in some way. And so I think that that's the way I help people, to bring them to where I am, because as I learn, I teach. And because I have 3 adult daughters, that's how I kind of look at my space. It's like, as I learn something, I teach it. I will, so if I have a personal conversation, I'll bring that, try to bring the person up to the next level where they seem to want to go, and then, you know teach my children, teach my grandchildren, teach my circle around me. I don't know if
Mhm.
that really answers the question.
Add
Sounds like
one more in there for everyone. Add one more in there. What's the level of certainty around those that, your top 5 people that you spend the most time with too? Add that in there too.
That's my kids, so I'm dragging them. Come on now, let's go. We got like everyone. Again, as I learn, I teach. So as I learn to speak better words, to words are powerful, then I try to bring that speech into what other people are saying. And I actually, I'm in an organization, and one of the pastors of my church is in that organization with me. And she even calls me on certain things. She'll be like, don't say that again. So as I learn, I teach. And even though I don't think that it's a negative, she's like, that's a negative. So I don't want you to say that again. Try to say it a different way. So
Mhm.
again, it's about surrounding yourself with people who can elevate you, and then you're elevating the people that you can elevate.
You literally was just in my head with that, because as you, no, seriously, because as you were talking, it's like when I go to the gym, I lift with people that are stronger with me, excuse me, stronger than me. Like, I don't lift with people who are, that can lift with what I can lift, and who can lift less than me, because there's no challenge. There has to be a quote unquote value gap, right? There has to be a space that you're always climbing towards. And for me, how I help other people get there is by being with other people who are quote unquote above me, so to say, but also by just bettering myself. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like I can't talk to anybody to tell them to better themselves, to have, speak positivity to yourself, do your affirmations if I'm not doing it myself. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like that constant journey of just bettering myself so that I can be better for everybody around me, for whoever I come in contact with. And it may not be a family member, friend. It could literally be an acquaintance that it's just literally two ships passing in the night. And it's just like, wow, that was a great conversation. I don't know if you guys ever just been out and you don't know this person from Adam, but y'all have like the greatest conversation. And you're just like, yo, like, it's just, but it does something for you. So for me, it's about continuing to learn, not just myself, but just continuing to learn the world around me, because you never know who you're going to come across. So that's how I feel like I help benefit others and things of that nature.
Nice, nice. I'll say my level of certainty is at least a 9 out of 10. It is at least a 9 out of 10, and I'm constantly working on it. Um, and I have shown that through the amount of risk that I have taken in my life, and the amount of losses that I've taken in my life, and the amount of successes that I have gotten because I took those losses, right? And so I know everything will work out. That's just it, right? I know I need to continue to elevate that, right? As I grow and within internally and I grow my business. And then the people that are around me, I mean, look, that I can't be around an 8. I I just can't, unless it's literally you're coming to me because you want to be a 9, right? I will absolutely be there, but I I have this problem all the time. You talk to my friends, talk to my wife. It's like all you talk about is real estate. All you talk about is personal development. That's all you talk about. That's all I know. That's all I know. That's all I consume. That's all I put myself around. So everything else, I mean, like it is what it is. Like I'm even looking for movies that I can see deeper meanings into, right? Like that's just it. And so the level of certainty of the people that I have been around, man, it's like 11, 12. And they have that for everyone around them. And I'm like, yo, I need that, right? I need to be in that energy at all times, right? At all times, as much as possible. Why? Because environment reinforces, right? It reinforces. So I think that's really important. Um, of course, I work with people, but unfortunately I'm not going to drag you, right? I will absolutely try my best to push you, right? If you allow it. If you allow me to push you, the Marine Corps in me will absolutely push you 100%. If you hire me as a coach, I am pushing you to the max. Um, but I just casually, being around, fives and fours is like, nah, that ain't happening. I need you to be certain. And this is not, when I say the level of certainty, I'm not talking about like where they going, what they're doing something different than me. No, no, no. This is like, are you certain about your life? Are you certain about, you believe that you can do what you say you can do, right? Right? You believe in whatever it is that you're trying to attain. You got to have a goal, right? So if you have a goal, that's really the thing. So once that's a prerequisite, but you're certain that it's going to happen, and it shows through the constant action and action and action that you're putting in. So yeah, what do y'all want to add to that? I mean, look, I added a couple things to this went from imposter to certainty. Where do y'all want to, kind of, what would you add to this conversation?
I just want to add environment. I know we kind of we talk about like, your tribe and who's in your corner, who can you call on, who helps the person that usually helps everybody, so I feel like you gotta try to get to a point where you're continuously building your tribe for what you need at that particular phase or that particular level of where you're at. Now, of course, we know that your tribe might change over time. It should change over time based on what you want, based on who you are, and based on just the overall vision that you've created. Like they say, the 10 people that you start with might not end with, but you got to start somewhere. So I guess adding on to is how do you get to your tribe? Do you just put a Facebook or on Instagram like, yo, I need a tribe? Or like how do you get your tribes? Because that's huge. Like
It's
how do
marketing.
say that
It's
again?
marketing. It's
Okay.
marketing, right?
Okay.
Like it's like, yo, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing, right? And they will hear it, right? They will hear it. And the thing is you have to constantly be it at every place, at every step, at in the line at McDonald's, in the line on the bench, at the gym. You got to be that at home. You got to be that on Facebook Live, right? And people will naturally, the right people will naturally gravitate to that, right? So when I say marketing, that's a business term, but I'm serious. It's real, right? Like I'm putting it out there. This is who I am. I can go to a networking event. I can go to this. But it's being who you are at all times, and then allowing those things to come to you, right? Those people to come to you, but you also actively going out to the places where you think those people will be, and being you. And it's not, I'm not gonna say that it can't happen, but you can absolutely go from 1 to 1 million in your tribe. You absolutely can. If you threw a 10 million man and woman march, you could. You speak in front of all of them. Pretty sure 10% of them is going to be like, yeah, I like that person, right? But how often are we in front of that many people, right? So I said it without saying it, but public speaking. Go speak in public.
I think like going back to us talking about being our authentic selves, like you said, CJ, and also like how big do you want your tribe to be? Like I think I'm at a good place right now. Like I have like little tribes, right? And so I do network because it's part of me getting to that. What was it? 5 million, did you say,
10.
CJ? 10? Okay,
10.
thank you for correcting me.
You got to
that's
say it with authority. You got to say
that's
it with
just
Yes.
quarter one.
So
authority.
That's
it's
just
part
quarter
of
one.
me getting to my 10 million in my business, but also my business, I help people. So I consistently go to networking events to make sure that I am connecting with the right people. And me being authentically who I am, like you said, they'll gravitate towards me. And we'll gravitate towards each other like magnets, right? So there's that building, and it can take time because once you get to one level and then you're getting in a different room, then you get a different level, and then that elevates you to a different room, so it in a different space. So I think to to speak to what you're saying about authenticity and going out, I public speaking is hard for people, not for me, but I mean, if you're trying to tell people to public speak, did you know, CJ, that some people will say I would rather die than public speak? And I was like, eliminate myself from the planet or just say something in public. I'm going this way. So I don't.
Which is exactly why it's so hard for us to attract that tribe. Why most people die with never experiencing it. You're right.
It's so fascinating to me. Like I literally have said on more than one occasion, I was born with a microphone in my mouth. So, it's never been, I would go to sleep when I was in college. I would go to sleep at 6 a.m. and go to class at 8 a.m. and still get to be on my public speaking thing. Cause girl, just Marcia can talk. But outside of that, I just, but I think that um being in groups. So not necessarily being on stage, because I think people think of public speaking as being in front of the room, but creating a space in which you are comfortable in the room talking to strangers and then elevating. Because just being able to talk to a stranger at a party or a networking event is is huge for some people. It's like really huge for some people. I coach when I small business owners. I'm like, you can't just come to this event and not talk to nobody because how that gonna help your business? So just getting them to talk to one other person. I did a conference in 20 something. I did a conference and they said make a goal of talking to X number of people at this conference before you leave. So, whatever your comfort zone is. My number was 50, of course. So I was like, I'm gonna talk to 50 people before I leave. But for people who um are not as comfortable, 5 people. Or make your goal and then every time you do it, make a bigger goal. Make a bigger goal until you're comfortable in that next space.
That's a good
Yeah.
look. Yeah, I've definitely been at
Yeah.
some oh go ahead, bro.
I, I I will add one more thing in there, and that's understanding the needs, right? Understand, and I mean, I'm blending, I'm normally thinking about business, right? I'll just say that, right? I'm thinking about business. I've got enough friends in my life. I'm not, when I say my tribe, right now is I'm looking at the tribe that I'm building is my list of clients that I can help, I can serve, and I add the most value to, right? And so I would add on to that is what are their needs, right? What are the needs of the people? And am I equipped to address those things, right? Or am I willing to be equipped to address those things? Maybe bringing in another partner or what have you. Maybe it's a skill that I need to attach to something else that I have or so. But yeah, Marcia, I'm right there with you. You gotta start somewhere. But at some point or another, if you're trying to build a big business, you better get in front of 1 million people. Period. Do it.
That's true. You definitely cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. You know what I'm saying? If the right person is listening, they gonna pick up on whatever it is that you're trying to put down. So, you know, I'm all about it. And what I was about to say was, as far as just some, I guess, if you're ever at a networking event, feeling a little nervous, you got like some change in your pocket, you should take, 5, 10 pennies every time you talk to somebody, you shift it, so it's kind of like you just giving yourself like a quote unquote reward. I remember, going out, just being hungry, like, okay, like physically hungry, like, okay, I need to get, I need to go talk to 10 people today, then I could go eat lunch. You know what I'm saying? So just kind of just giving yourself something to work towards, you know, ultimately, working towards your vision. That's how I'm looking at it.
I love those small goals. That's good.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Y'all taking me back to earlier in the conversation where we were talking about, well, no, there's no such thing as the imposter. And I'm like, yo, with that, you go all the way in. You go all the way into that, right? So but I see it, right? You gotta have you may need to start with some smaller goals. But at the same time, it's just like, you could if you're looking at visibility is it, right? I think that's the thing that we are scared of is to be seen.
Mm,
Scared of being seen, and I think that's maybe you should address that. Why don't you want to be seen? Are there some things that you shouldn't be seen for? You doing things you shouldn't be doing, or whatever, right? Address that, I guess, and maybe it'll kind of allow you to be. But I will say I was at a point too where no, there was nothing that I had where I should be hiding, right? There was nothing in me, nothing that I was doing that I should be hiding, and that feeling was there. And I'm not gonna lie to you, that feeling is there all the time.
mm,
There all the time. But the thing is are you gonna let that, you know, make you walk away from the stage, right? Or the proverbial stage, or the networking room that you were about to go into, or the interview that you were about to go into, or, you know what I mean? Are you gonna let that make you walk away? And that's not an option for me. right? And I know it's not an option for anyone in this room either, and those that are listening. So,
I
but
think a good part of this conversation about the imposter syndrome, even though we started there, I think for those listeners who may be experiencing any of those, hopefully we've been able to give them some good tidbits and tactics to be able to get out of whatever the imposter syndrome is that they're feeling. Um, so hopefully, if they take, the pennies that Johan's got in his pocket, if they take, some of the small, I'm going to talk to two people at this conversation. If I'm going to just speak life into myself, hopefully some of the tidbits that we use for ourselves can be helpful for those who are listening.
Good point.
I agree. I totally agree. Totally agree. Look, did y'all have anything else that you wanted to add to this conversation before we wrap up? I know this has been a phenomenal conversation. We've gone through some tactics. We've exposed some of our fears, and we were all visible, right? And I think this is just this live is a tactic to the listeners that are out there. Um, this is it. This is being authentic. You can hear it, right? It, we may have a different way of looking at things, but everyone does. You should have a different way of looking at things. But you see, as a collective, we've come together, and for one, come to what is this other person's definition, and at the same time, what is a way that you've done it, right? And so I'm going to take what Kelly said, I'm going to take what Marcia said, I'm going to take what Johan said, and I'm going to see how I can sprinkle some of those things into what I was doing. And if I shared some value, hopefully you can do that too. Take some of those things as well. And yeah, I love how we got from this conversation belief and confidence. I knew it would come. I knew it would come. So I'm super grateful for every one of you adding to this discussion. Um, yeah, and I don't think it could have been any better. This was amazing.
Agreed. Agreed. Ain't never lying.
Awesome, awesome. Well, look, good folks out there in podcast land and on Facebook Live, we love you. This has been great. Don't be an imposter tomorrow. And if you are, run through the wall. All right. Y'all be great.
Peace, y'all.
Have a great
Bye.
night.
Be great. I love it. I love it.
Boom. All right. I just stopped the stream.
Only the Marine guy would say run through the wall. Hoorah. Wait a
Okay.
minute.
Okay.
I mean, the feelings may be there, but hey, get through it, right? Get through the doggone thing. So no, this was really good. I'm gonna stop the recording.